I'm Irene Mugisha. I'm the coordinator of the Secretariat at the Presidential CEO Forum. This is an initiative by government, and especially by the head of government. It is one of the strategic initiatives that brings together, or the right way I can say it, it's a direct and adequate link between the private sector CEOs, and these are both indigenous and corporate CEOs that do engage with the other side of government, who are the MDAs, ministries, departments, and agencies, in terms of how best can they contribute to the national development agenda. So CEO as a platform is seen as a manifest of different CEOs to cooperate, collaborate with government in essence of formulating policy. And these policies can really be driven from a number of issues. What kind of issues are affecting the government, for instance, current, and how can that policy be able to be ignited or formulated so that it can provide a good business environment. Our main activity is the forum, the Presidential CEO Forum or the Private Sector CEOs Forum. These are supposed to take place twice a year. The first one was in December of 2021. We have so far successfully conducted 4 private sector CEO forums. These bring together a number of CEOs from different sectors according to the theme that we are advocating for in a particular time or period. Giving you an example, the recent one, the 4th biannual CEO Forum, took place in Kira Motors in Jinja as one of our regional forums, attracting all the key players, policy players and private sector players who are in that space of e-mobility. You know, world over globally, we are going e-mobility, and that is trying to go into the green climate or green revolution. And Uganda is championing this very, very much. So I think in Africa, we are number one. The government has prioritized budget towards Kira Motors, that is manufacturing these e-buses, and also we have other players in the electronic bikes. But what we are proud of is, one, that e-mobility development policy that has been adopted by government to ensure that that kind of allocation of funds and also give them priority to network with other players is prioritized. The other one that was championed during the second and third private sector forum was the private equity. Private equity right now has been adopted as an alternative financing. And when you want to enhance private sector growth in terms of how can they sustain their business or how can they do resource mobilization, that is private equity. So private equity is seen as one of the alternative for resource mobilization by government, and that is a plus for the forum. The other one was the Export Guarantee Scheme was one of our takeoffs. And so quite a number of attractive initiatives that have been championed by the private sector secretariat or forum through government. As the president ably says it, he says, there is no way you're going to have an initiative if it's not championed by the people who are into the system. Private sector is said to be the engine growth of any economy. So how do you enact a policy that is actually not supported or not actualized by the private sector? So we are proud, and quite a number of conversations are still going on. What the CEO platform is doing is really just to convene the right minds, the right personnel, come up with an issue, and then see how best that position paper can be escalated to a cabinet paper, and then it's enacted. Our next forum, which is the 5th forum that we are planning for, is going to be looking at value chain in the agriculture sector. So that also will be something that will either push a certain policy to be adopted by the government. Like any other leader, I mean, being a CEO, a coordinator, or a leader, the core challenge is how you're in position to manage your team to be able to effectively achieve the goals of any organization. So I don't want to speak particularly in the PCF, but coordinating a secretariat means you have a team that you need to supervise to see that they achieve the goals of the PCF mandate or secretariat. And really these goals is to ensure that we harmonize with the private sector, we conduct these business forums, we collaborate where need be in terms of either external excursions and so many things. The other one that I would look at as a challenge really is also trying to create a remote culture within an organization, because you're bringing together different disciplines. How then do you remotely manage that culture? We believe in being professional, we believe in practice, confidentiality, loyalty, all those things, team player. So how do you manage that kind of culture? And quite a number of things in terms of meeting the business goals that I've already mentioned. The business goals are the objectives of this institution. If you're talking about the mission of harnessing and popularizing private sector into the national agenda, how are you planning to come out with this main goal achieved? The other one is also ensuring that you focus on building a strategic plan that is not just a one-off but a long-term strategic plan. We just concluded our strategic plan, a 5-year strategic plan that was a 2-day strategic inclusion of the board, and we focused on building this 5-year strategic plan that can see a secretariat that's not just a one-off, but a long-term secretariat. And so for me as a coordinator, how then do you come up with a work plan that feeds into resource mobilization as one of the pillars in the strategic plan? How do you then also ensure that operational excellence is achieved through human resource personnel, through functioning of the office? How then do you also ensure that branding that builds the communication and visibility of the entity is achieved? How do you also then look at stakeholder value creation? So those are the 4 pillars we have in the strategic plan. And to me, it becomes quite of a challenge, and we say challenges are opportunities. So yeah, I tend to look at it as opportunities because it challenges you to achieve something, but also to meet the desired goals. If you want to have an efficient organization right now, I think going digital is the way to go. And going digital is, you have to be savvy online. You have to be able to know how do you navigate to do a telephonic conversation, how do you do virtual meetings. If you cannot attend a manual meeting, how do you then do virtual meetings? So the world over, and this, I believe, also COVID allowed us as Ugandans to quickly adopt into these new trends of operating, that I don't need to be in an office to be able to be effective. Yeah, I can be able to write a report and send it over for approval to chairman, who will approve it, and it will be seen directly that it's green, so that it's been approved for any action. So adopting to the different WhatsApp groups. They have been adopted as effective tools of operating in offices. And yes, yeah, so the trend is really going digital and appreciating digitization for efficiency and for accountability, as well as transparency. For any organization to have a future, you need to have a strategic plan, because a strategic plan is designed in a way that it's 1 year, 2 year, 3 year, 4 years, and 5 years. It's a 5-year strategic plan that is taking us through every actionable agenda that we need to achieve. If our first year was operational, that's building or having a secretariat functional, what are you looking at in the second year? That's mean now you have to look at the activities. What are these activities that you're planning for? Then the third year, if you're looking at probably strategic stakeholder engagement or stakeholder value creation, what are those stakeholder value creation that you're trying to bring on board? And that is thinking ahead of time. That's where you have adaptability, innovation. We plan to have apprenticeship programs. We plan to have a leadership institution. So all these are long-term projects that we have that have been approved by the board, not only just the board, but the head of state, who is the patron of this initiative or secretariat. So there's a lot that has been envisioned to be achieved by the secretariat. This secretariat is just not a one-off. Again, like I've mentioned, embedded under the Ministry of Finance, Planning and Economic Development, to achieve key policy formulations that can continue drive a good business environment, that can allow private sector thrive, that can allow attract FDI, that can allow indigenous, our own indigenous who are actually passionate to the Secretariat. How do we improve the growth of our own indigenous? Yeah, from the stage of either medium-sized to large and to corporate. And those should really be through the conversations that we're speaking about. So quite a number of strategic interventions are being put in place for this Secretariat to push forward on behalf of government. Yeah, and working closely with the head of government business, who is the Prime Minister. Thank you.